Today, if you got your takeaway card, you got your hard copy, pull it out. Or if you're new with us, you can actually pull up on your phone. If you got the Bible app, or it's called YouVersion, or you go to Bible.com, you pull it up on there, and you can select Vision Church and events, and you can save it. And that takeaway card will be with you all week long to take these verses, take these concepts, and dig into them throughout the week. We want you to do that. Now, let me talk about where we've been, because the first 3 weeks, I preached on different topics in Psalms and a particular Psalm, and then, man, last week it happened, man. Kevin Collick got up here. Did you guys enjoy Kevin Collick last week? Yes. Wow. We were up in Blowing Rock, and Meg was doing some of this because I'm pulling up on Facebook Live. She's like, "We are not in church today." And I said, "Hey, I'm gonna watch Kevin, okay?" And so I got to watch some of it on Facebook Live, and I did shut it down. But I watched all of it one night this week, and we are so blessed to have a guy like Kevin in our church. They come here and preach God's word and do an amazing job. So I thank God for you, Kevin. Thanks for being here last week and doing that. And where we're going with this, we got today, Psalm 15. We got 3 more weeks in the series. And then, it's going to be fun. Labor Day weekend, we're having what we call our Ignite Invasion as our students get up here and take over, and it's going to be a blast. You don't want to miss that. And then September 11th, we're starting our new series in the fall. I think it will be potentially the most impactful series we have done here at Vision Church. You don't want to miss it. You'll start hearing that kind of trickling out and seeing some shirts and some different stuff trickling out next couple weeks. So brace yourself for all of that. Today, we're going to be, what I want you to do actually first is grab your blue card. It's called a connection card. Pick that up. It was on your seat. And what I need you to do, at least now, is just put your name on there. And if you want to put some contact info, that's great. But at least your name, because we'll circle back around to this at the end of the service, and you have a chance to fill out some parts of that and let us know how we can be praying for you. So that blue card, that connection card, will be important at the end of the service. Make sure you don't lose it or don't put your gum in it or anything like that. So let's take a look, though, at in Psalms. And I was thinking about this last week as we went up to Blowing Rock, and we're going hiking. We got any people in here like go hiking, particularly creeks? You like going hiking on trails that got creeks and rivers? You go through them? Because our family does. We like getting outside. We like going hiking. So, okay, got this little picture here to be thinking about hiking down a creek. Now you're going hiking on a creek, and there's like some rocks. Some of them are, stable. Some of them rock a little bit. Some got moss. Some got some water on there. It's interesting. When you're like a teenager, you just like hop from rock to rock because, if something goes wrong, you're nimble. You can work with it. When you get past 40, you're like, okay. Okay, whoa, that one moves a little bit. You're like much more conservative going on those rocks because you know what can happen. You can be walking along and you're like, woo, that one moves a little bit. Okay, we're missing that. I like the integrity of my knee ligaments. I'm not going on that one. Like, okay, you're walking along and like slippery. Oh, foot wet. It's okay. I'm all right. It's okay. I'm all right. You keep going. You hit another rock that slips and you do the shin bust. Has anybody ever done the shin bust on a rock where you're like, your dad, and you're like, oh, I'm okay. And kid's like, hey, Dad, it's bleeding. Like, I can like see the bone. You're like, no, I'm good. Oh, it hurts. You're thinking, man, that rock, I should have missed that rock. And then it goes to another level when you're the guy with the backpack and you step on a rock and slip and go in the water. And they're like, don't worry about Dad. Get the phones. They're in the backpack. Get it out of the water. And you've had a moment. You said, man, I should not have stepped on a rock that was shaky. Well, we look at Psalm 15 today, and we're going to learn about how we can not be shaken, not standing on a rock that truly shakes us and throws us in the water or messes up our shin or does terrible things to us, because we do get shaken. And let me get some crowd participation on this, because as I prayed about it this week and said, God, what are the key things that do shake us? So first of all, if you ever get shaken by finances, like literally, You look at your bank account or you look at the bills and you're like, God, I feel like I'm totally on a rock that's moving. All right, okay, how about job or school for our students, like your job? Because, I'm hearing from you. And students, they're like, oh, 7th grade is just, it stresses me out. And you're like, girl, just wait, okay? Just wait till the bills start coming. But seriously, okay, but job, really. Who in your job, like literally, it does. It shakes you. Okay, how about relationships? That you got a relationship in your life. If you're being real here, you're like, God, there's some relationships that I need some more help in this, some stability in this. Or how about your health or someone that you care about, their health? I talk to people every week going through serious things. And honestly, it hurts me when I find people who don't have a church home or don't know the Lord and they're going through issues with their health. Because I tell you what, I can't give them hope about their eternity unless they know Christ. For those of us though, who are walking with God and we're shaking a little bit, I can say, hey, at least, honestly, we've got a better life. Really, if you're talking cancer, if you're talking death, we got something better coming. But even in this world, health, it shakes us. And how about what I would call world events like ISIS, like shootings in our country, somebody had passed on me the other day a story about someone in Target who literally felt like they were being stalked and somebody was looking at their girl to potentially to kidnap them. And I'm like, world events. So really, like this world and where it's going, the elections, all that stuff, and you're like, honestly, I feel totally on shaky ground. God says, I've got an answer for that. I've got an answer to help you find stability so that you're not shaken like the world is shaken. Because we should have a different perspective. And what I'm talking about today is kind of twofold. Because there's God's part in this, and then there's our part. Now, as your pastor, I promise you that I try to do two things for you. I try to encourage you, and I try to challenge you. And a lot of times you're like, man, we want some more encouragement. Hey, there's a balance. And truly, when I look at this dynamic of having a rock we can stand on, there's God's part. And I'm gonna unpack that more in the last week of the series when we talk about God being our fortress. That truly a fortress, a refuge we can climb into, that is his part. Our part of climbing this mountain to get on this rock, in Psalm 15, we're going to unpack it today when God says, look, you have a part in this. And I want to be your rock, but you also have a part to play. So as we unpack this today, the focus is going to be on us. And our bottom line, if you take a look at that on your takeaway or up on the screen, it's pretty simple. It's to stand on the rock, you have to climb the mountain. To stand on the rock, you got to climb a mountain. So repeat after me. Stand on the rock. Climb the mountain. Okay, now one of these is, it's God's part. So to stand on the rock, say that's God's part. Okay, climbing a mountain, that's my part. Okay, so the reality in this is that we got a part to play and God's got a part to play, and we're going to see how it is unpacked in Psalm 15. That's interesting. What I like about Psalm 15 is, Kevin, I was listening to your message last week. And if you remember, he said something about YouVersion, how you can get it put on there and listen to it. So this week, I plug in Psalm 15. I'm like, okay, I'm going to listen to this. If you do this, you'll see it only takes about 30 seconds to listen through Psalm 15. So you think, I had basically a 30-second conversation hearing from God, or hearing from David as God spoke through him. How many conversations did you have this week that were way longer than 30 seconds? With your kids, with your friends, at work, good conversations, bad conversations. And God says to you, I've got something to share with you in a 30-second conversation if you really pay attention. And as I say to you as your pastor, if you give me about 20 minutes to unpack it, I think you'll walk away saying, wow, man, 5 verses, just 5 verses, a 30-second conversation. God had something for me that was totally worth getting up and going to Vision Church for today. So let's take a look at Psalm 15. And my plan today is I'm going to read through the 5 verses, and then we're going to kind of unpack it so that you can truly walk away with this with some plans, some next steps you can take to stand on a rock so you're not falling and having trouble and being shaken. Now, starts off in verse 1. It says, Lord, who may dwell in your sacred tent? Who may live on your holy mountain? The one whose walk is blameless, who does what is righteous, who speaks the truth from the heart, whose tongue utters no slander, who does no wrong to a neighbor and casts no slur on others, who despises a vile person but honors those who fear the Lord, who keeps an oath even when it hurts and does not change their mind. He finishes up saying, who lends money to the poor without interest, who does not accept a bribe against the innocent. Whoever does these things will not be shaken. So again, if you listen to that on YouVersion, 30 seconds and it's gone. Honestly, you could move on to Psalm 16 and 17 and 18. I want you to pause and say, God, 5 verses. David wrote something in these 5 verses that we're going to start out in verse 5 because I am interested in hearing about this when he says, he who does these things will not be shaken. Man, I want that. You think about walking down that river and finding the stable rocks and missing out on wet feet and torn up shins and falling in water. We don't want that. We want stability And David is saying, he who does these things will not be shaken. So I want to figure out how to do that. So what does it mean, first of all, to not be shaken? To be somebody who, goes to Vision Church, reads their Bible, thinks about a message they heard, participates in music, says, I don't want to be shaken. Well, what does that look like? What does that look like tomorrow when these different areas come at you? Not being shaken is, first of all, I think it's a different response. I think it's a different perspective. The reality is your circumstance is not going to be different. Things are going to come your way this week that will attempt to shake you. They'll say, hey, make your goals and measure success a certain way. You say, wait a second, I don't look at things that way. I'm different. I'm choosing to not be shaken because of what I believe. And in fact, when I think back to that river and choosing a path that is not shaken, it's a much more pleasant journey. I want that. I want that in your life. So what I think David did is he began with kind of this end in mind, where he said, okay, where I'm going in verse 5 is going to tell them how to not be shaken. And I love that because I like having a plan. I like knowing where we're going. So we're going towards verse 5, which says, here's how you won't be shaken. So we cycle back to verse 1. Here's what it says. Lord, who may dwell in your sacred tent? Who may live on your holy mountain? So I ask you, what's it mean to dwell in his tent or get on his mountain? I think what David's saying is the person who's not shaken is the person who is this close to God, that spends time with God, that goes to a place, like he's calling it, a sacred tent. Not everybody can go there. Not everybody chooses to go there. But those who do choose to go into that sacred tent or onto that holy mountain, they are going to get to this spot where they will not be shaken. So that interests me. When I hear him start off with verse 1 saying, you can go into God's, his presence, it's going to take you somewhere. Say, how do I get there? Well, I look at God's word. In the Old Testament, you got a guy named Moses. He went up on the mountain. God gave him incredible words and concepts. We call it 10 Commandments because he went and spent time with him. See a guy named Elijah. He went through the highs of life. He went through the lows of life. And when he was at his lowest, he climbed up a mountain and God met him there. I said, I want some of that. I need some of that. I look at Jesus in the New Testament when he took Peter, James, and John, and they went up a mountain together to where Jesus, it was called, he was transfigured, where these guys for the first time saw the power of Jesus as the Son of God, and they walked off that mountain saying, oh my goodness, what we have experienced. So I look at Moses and Elijah and those guys with Jesus and say, I want to get there. How do I get into that sacred place? Well, there's 3 key points to know about standing on the rock and living on the mountain. First one is realize that I need a rock to stand on. And I think everybody understands this. Even people who don't go to church, they say, I need something to stand on. And I'm going to work harder to have more money so I can stand on that. Or I'm going to be self-made so that nobody can hurt me. I will stand on that. Or I'm going to get married and have kids and have the house so I could stand on that. I will choose that as my rock to stand on. But as you see people go through life, that's shifting sand. That's not a real rock. So we need, we'll realize we need a rock. But the second thing, so importantly, is that we recognize that being in God's presence is how to get on that rock. Being in his presence, and this was strange. Me and Meg had a conversation last Sunday driving up to Blowing Rock. As we passed through Hickory and Lenore, and we started talking about all these cars going here and there and everywhere, and wondered how many of these people, today is just Sunday, just a day of the week. It's not the day to go to church. It's not the day to connect with people and sing songs or hear a message or look in a Bible. It's just not to them. I think, how do you help somebody get from there to a place where you recognize that God is the one, he's the rock to build on? So I want to tell you this, heart to heart, church, we have a tough task in front of us. Because in Gaston County, we've got tens of thousands. That right now, they're going here and there, everywhere. They are not even thinking about the true rock that God is. Well, that takes me to the third one then of how you actually get to this rock is synchronize. Okay, first you recognize you need a rock. Then you realize, man, God's the one. Well, so you synchronize. Now, how many people still wear a watch? If you're wearing a watch, hold that thing up. Because, I have been liberated from wearing a watch. I love carrying a phone with me. I don't wear a watch anymore. But, okay, any Apple Watches in the house? Any Apple Watches? Of course, yeah, my son. Me and Meg did not finance that. He paid for that with his own money. Thank you very much. But anyways, you think about going to Carowinds or going to the mall, and you're like, okay, guys, let's make sure we meet back here at a certain time. Let's synchronize our watches, make sure we got the right time, so when we come back and meet up, we're not off track. I believe what David is speaking to us throughout Psalm 15, he's saying, look, guys, you got to realize you need a rock, recognize God's the rock, and the whole middle part of it, he's talking about synchronizing our habits with God's habits. That is how you get into that sacred tent, that holy place. That is how you stand on a rock that doesn't throw you in the river. I want to know how to get there. Now, synchronizing it takes us into verse 2. That's where the next couple verses take us. The one whose walk is blameless, who does what is righteous, who speaks the truth from their heart. You're like, Matt, oh man, I can't be blameless. I mean, I can't be perfect. Man, if you knew what happened in my week, man, you definitely know, Matt, I am not blameless. And I don't think God is asking you to be perfect. I think God is asking you to be different. I think he's asking you to stand out like a light in a dark world, that people say, man, why is he different? Why does he have a little bit different perspective when things go wrong? Why does he react differently when people speak to him that way? Why does he handle stress and have a different way he reacts to it? I think there's a blamelessness to us when we carry the characteristics of Christ in our life that someone is not going to say, she's perfect. Because I know him, and he says his wife is not perfect, so I know that. But when I look at her and say, I think she's walking with the characteristics of God, that to me is blameless. And in your walk, let me tell you this, when you come to Christ for the first time, that's when this journey starts. But when we're talking about baptism in our church, this is one of the first next steps of a blameless life, is saying, I'm going to go in front of my church and family and friends and get baptized to say, there is a new leader in my life. There is a new synchronization going on in my life that I want to live out. And so I unapologetically say, if that's you, then be a part of baptism on the 21st. That you say, I'm telling people I'm walking for him. Now, there's another thing, that you would unapologetically have habits in your life like Jesus. So guys, pull up this picture from camp last week, because I got this picture sent to me from one of the leaders. He sent it, said, one morning, it's all going crazy in the bunkhouse and stuff, and little Mario goes, hey, keep it down. And they look over at Mario, and he's reading his Bible. He's reading through Psalms with us. And this little guy, he is living a life that says, I'm not blameless, I'm not perfect, but I'm trying to carry out characteristics of Jesus in my life. So let's continue. What's it mean to do what's righteous? You're like, oh, righteous, man, that's like that high and lofty. I hate when people are self-righteous and all that. No. Righteous is about right standing. It's about right standing. So let's say Jeremy here. Say if I need help moving a couch. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go ask Jeremy if he'll help me move a couch. So I go over to him and say, hey, Jeremy, can you help me move a couch next weekend? And he says, okay, well, he thinks through his mind. He says, well, first of all, I mean, I love Pastor Matt and everything, but man, last weekend when Waylon came up to him and wanted a piece of his time, he was like, boom, get away from me, kid. He's like, wait a second. He doesn't care about the things that I care about. And then he thinks, okay, wait a second. We've had a couple other people move lately, and man, I've been there, but I asked Pastor Matt to help, and he didn't want to help. So he doesn't care about some of the things I care about. Doesn't care about the people I care about. Doesn't care about the things I care about. And then last, when I walked up to him, before he even say, how you been? How's your week going? Man, can you help me do this? And Jeremy's like, wait a second. Where's the relationship? Is it just want? And God, in this term righteous, which means right standing, he would look at that and say, man, I'm not in right standing with Jeremy. I have no healthy relationship if I don't care about the people he cares about, care about the things he cares about, and I don't work on building relationship. We're not in right standing. So when David writes, it's the person that's righteous, it's the person that is in right standing with God. And think about that. Cares about the people he cares about the things he cares about, and truly want to spend time with him. That's how you are a person that is righteous. Now the next phrase, who speaks truth from the heart. Okay, this is about being honest. This is about not being a person that's about lying or honestly even flattery. So, okay, I got to get something, so let me kind of flatter them a little bit, just kind of build them up, even though that's not true. I don't feel that way. You're like, okay, or you're like, no, I can speak the truth. Man, I'll tell you the truth. I told her what her hair looked like, and she didn't like it. So wait a second. There's also something that Paul writes in Ephesians about speaking the truth with love. that there is a care for a person, that although you may be an honest person, there's also a care that's intertwined with that, speaking the truth in love. Now, verse 3, whose tongue utters no slander, who does no wrong to a neighbor and casts no slurs on others. So let's think about a tongue that utters no slander. Now, slander, I looked this up, it's false spoken statement damaging to a person's reputation. Damaging. It sounds a lot like gossip. It sounds a lot like you'd be talking about somebody. It sounds a lot like you'd just be kind of like throwing them under the bus and just kind of loving how that felt. God doesn't like that. He doesn't like it just because he wants to control you. He doesn't like that because he wants there to be peace among people. And he knows that when we are slandering each other, it's not carrying out his plan. I love this verse in Ephesians. It's one of my favorite verses in the Bible. Ephesians 4:29. If the whole world lived this out and even said, we don't believe in Jesus, but we live this out, about don't let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. You think about our world. And in fact, I want you to think about that tomorrow. And I want you students, on August 29th, you go back to school, and you're thinking about your words, and are my words wholesome? In fact, are my words what that person needs to hear today to build them up? Our world would be so changed if we just embraced that. And that ties in to not being people of slander. Okay, how about does no wrong to a neighbor? About intentionally loving another person. About not having any expectations in the way you love somebody. And you say, okay, well, I'm not doing wrong to a lot of people, but are you doing right to them? Or are you just, it's about me, or is it like the guys who last Sunday, even though I was gone, I called up Mike, plays on the box there, I said, Mike, we got somebody who needs to be moved. Someone new to our church. Would you grab some guys and go help her move? And they went to their neighbor and blessed her by moving her stuff and getting her moved in. Okay, how about this next one? You look at this next picture, you think, what's this about loving people? That looks like Kim out there in the bazooka ball court. And there's Kim Thorpe. She's at camp with a gun in her hands. And I look at that, and I think about Kim and those 4 other adults who went, and they made a choice last week to give up their time, to take off of work or take whatever, to go to camp and love on kids and love on your family in a way that says, I will love my neighbor. You imagine a church full of people like that? It would be unstoppable. That's what David writes about. Now, how about this cast no slur? Slur is an allegation about someone that is likely to insult them or damage their reputation. And it gets exponentially worse when you talk about even a racial slur. You think about the climate in our country now, or all these different races are vicious against each other. And this concept of a racial slur, I said, wait a second, we're not going to be a church like that. We're going to be a church of black people and white people and Asians and Hispanics, even Yankees. And literally, we're going to be a church from Michigan, yes, that will love anybody. And I love the diversity in our church because we're not forcing it. We're just taking on the face of God. And God smiles on that when you have a church of people that, yes, will even accept transplanted Yankees into their environment. And that's about slur. Now, verse 4 says, who despises a vile person but honors those who fear the Lord, who keeps an oath even when it hurts and does not change their mind. So think about this, despises a vile person. I think most of us would say, hey, definitely, I don't want to be around anybody who's vile. I don't want that. I would not. Well, think beyond that. What about the things you watch? The things you listen to? The things we talk about? How much vileness are we letting into our lives? And you're like, oh man, I better not get in a conversation with Pastor Matt. He's going to see what we were watching or hear what we were talking about. Hey, we all struggle with that. But we make a choice not to engage in that vileness, but instead to honor those who fear God. Honor those who fear God. Think about this. If you were not just that reactionary of, okay, I'm not going to be around vile, but instead I'm going to be intentional to bless those who love God, what if you did something like this? What if you brought a box of M&Ms sometime and gave them to one of our host team members and said, hey, thank you for serving here at Vision? What if one week you went back to Viz Kids and your small group leader for your kid, and you gave him a gift card to Starbucks and said, I just want to bless you. There's no strings attached, but thank you for being somebody who blesses others. I want to bless you. So I want to challenge you. Pray about that and see where God leads you. Maybe it's not somebody at Vision. Maybe it's somebody outside, that you would be intentional about not just staying away from the vile, but being proactive and blessing those who bless God. Then the last piece there, keeping an oath even when it hurts. Are you a man or a woman truly that we can trust, not even just what you say, but that you'll be there? When you say you'll be there, you'll be there. No, you won't be there late and miss moving the couch, but you'll be there on time. Say, hey, this is my word. I will be there. Because I want to tell you, in this society, this disposable society, this on-demand society that will throw anything or anybody away in a minute, if we are people that are true to our word and people can trust us in that, particularly this generation, I'm telling you, these students will be drawn more to that when they see authenticity and dependability in the way we speak and the way we act. So that gets us to verse 5. Wrapping it up. Who lends money to the poor without interest, who does not accept a bribe against the innocent, whoever does these things will never be shaken. You say, well, Matt, lending money? I'm not real big on that. So, okay, what can you lend? Can you lend your time to somebody? Can you give your attention? Can you use your influence and help them to do something? Can you care enough about somebody to do that totally open-handed and not say, hey, I helped you out last month. Will you help me out this time because you owe me? No, it's open-handed. That you literally would lend without asking anything back in return. Who does not accept a bribe against the innocent. I want to ask you, do you stand up for the innocent? Being a follower of Christ is about defending the defenseless. So what we will do as a church is we'll partner with Southwest Middle. And in fact, I'm gonna kind of chart the course on this. I'm going to the mentor training in a couple weeks so that I can mentor one boy at Southwest. And when I come back and talk about that, I hope others will say, I'm gonna try that. I'll mentor a girl or I'll mentor a boy, or I'll try to help out to defend some defenseless. How about serving with our kids? We got babies coming out of our ears out there, okay? So we need more people that'll say, hey, I'll do it once a month. I would love to help. I'd love to go back here in elementary. I don't know exactly what to do, but man, I could sing with them and play with them and love them. Then go back there with Kim, serve those, and love on them in a way that is like defending the defenseless. Now, how about Operation Christmas Child? We got any fans of that in here? Because we are going to be a church about this project called Operation Christmas Child, where we will, over the next couple months, teach you and empower you to put together a little box of stuff that will go around the world somewhere to some kid who will never meet you. But we'll open up a box, and she'll find a little dress made out of a pillowcase and think it's the best thing she got all year. And we're going to produce, as a church, hundreds of these boxes this year and pray over them and send them to Charlotte. We will do that. We will be that type of church that does that. Now, this last one about, again, whoever does these things will never be shaken. It's because you stand on the rock. And you can stand on the rock, remember, because you're going to that sacred place. You're going up on the mountain. You're spending time with God because you have these characteristics in your life of a person that God wants to be with and work in their lives. So pick up your blue card. Got your blue card? I got two things I want to ask you to do. As you flip it over, the first one is let me know how I can be praying for you about one of those 5 areas that might shake you. And you mark on there, say, Matt, totally, my finances, or my job, or relationships, or the health of me or someone else, or world events, and you put one or more on there, and this will be confidential. I'll get it, our elders will get it, and our care team, and that's it. We're not going to spread this and put this out there. This will be us praying for you. Let us know. The second part of it, though, you remember, God's doing his part. He's that rock. The second part of it is you got to do something. Okay, not to earn your salvation. That's a gift. But the rest of this journey, you need to be living out verses 2 through 4. So here they are. And I want you to humbly mark on there where you need to grow. And hey, if you need to hide it from the person next to you, and as soon as you finish it, you fold it over, that's fine, because this is between you and God. This is. But you look on there, and this is where that synchronize comes in, where we're going to synchronize our habits with God. And how about that blameless walk? Is it evident that you are a follower of Jesus? That right standing with God? Don't you want to be in a place where you care about what he cares about and you have a relationship with him that matters? Speaking the truth. Are you an honest person? How about tenderness in your speaking the truth? How about a slander? What are your words like? Whether that's a racial slur or just gossip or what that looks like, what are your words like? And you need to mark something on there that says, I need to work on that. You love your neighbor? How about your exposure to vile people or vile things? You keeping your promises? Are you sharing or giving with no strings attached? Do you stand up for the innocent? Because remember, our bottom line, it's a simple concept that to stand on the rock, you got to climb the mountain. Climbing that mountain, though, is living this out. It's not just coming in here and saying, hey, that Vision Church, they sure do encourage me, because I want to be a part of a team that encourages you and challenges you. So that bottom line of standing on the rock, you got to climb the mountain. I want you to think about this quote. Because when I was praying about how God was going to somehow give me what I needed to be a pastor, to plant a church, and he gave me this quote from John Wesley that I can use as a pastor and you can use every day. Listen to what John Wesley, one of the heroes of the faith, what he wrote. It says, light yourself on fire with passion, and people will come from miles to watch you burn. Light yourself on fire with a passion that's undeniable, that's unmistakable. People will come from miles around to watch you burn. And maybe that miles around starts in your house because you're like, Matt, nobody else in my house is living for God. Okay, well then light yourself on fire with passion, and they'll come around you to watch you burn. Say, I'm trying to reach my neighbors. I'm trying to impact people and just speak in their lives. Light yourself on fire with passion, and they'll come and watch you burn. Choose wisely what you light yourself on fire with. There are a lot of different things in life to choose. As for me, I'm choosing to climb that mountain because I want to stand on that rock. So this blue card, after our last song today, you can drop it off in this bucket. We'll be out in the lobby, and we filled it up the first service, and then they put them away, and you can put yours in there. But before we sing, though, I want to invite my friend Wayne Gamble to come on up. Because Wayne is a guy who's trying to live this out. He's a guy who wants to stand on that rock, so when life happens and it seems shaky, he said, wait a second, I've got something to stand on. It's Christ, it's our church. But Wayne, as part of our care team, also is such a giver. I mean, he gives to people. He ministers to people. But Wayne and his wife, Ladina, went through something in the last couple of months where Ladina's daughter, Lauren, who's 21, she died in a car accident. Tragic. Came out of nowhere. She'd gone. As I met with the family, I said, Wayne, this is your time to receive. You, Ladina, give so much and care so much, you got to receive. I said, well, would you hop up here and tell people what that's like and how it is to receive that and truly your passion that's gone out and our passion's coming back in. Tell us what this has been like, Wayne.
Well, this is the last picture that Ladina had taken with Lauren. And so that was just a few weeks before the accident. And is it okay to be real for just a second? Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to take us kind of low, but then stay with me because it'll come back up. So the worst thing was that morning when we got the call, and the accident happened in Middle Tennessee, and so which was a several-hour trip. By the time we got there, she was already. They had her in the morgue, and she was in a body bag, and that was our last vision and look at Lauren. And that was very. There's no words. But the upside of that is I wanted to come up here and thank Vision because Ladina and I have no family, blood family in Gastonia, but we have our Vision family. And I just wanted to come up and say thank you for the food, but mostly for the prayers, because for the first time in my life, of all the ups and downs that I've had, people praying for me, over me, laying hands on me, whatever, this is actually the first time that I've physically felt prayers come in. we felt them. We actually physically felt the prayers. So I know that there's prayer warriors out there in this church. I don't know if it's one or if there's 100, but we really appreciate and so thankful for the prayers coming in from our Vision family. And just continue to pray for Ladina. Actually, this Thursday would have been Lauren's 22nd birthday. So I'm sure we're going to have a rough day. She's having a few issues with work. She's gone back to work, so she's having a few issues there. So if you would, just continue to keep her in prayer, because I know you guys are powerful prayers. Yeah. So thank you.
Well, we're on this journey together with Wayne and his family and with you and your family, if you'll let us be there. So when that rock is shifting and shaking, you're like, wait a second. We can stand on a firm rock together.